The meeting that changed everything. The rain was falling softly on the city streets of Portland as Amelia walked briskly down the sidewalk. She had just left her nursing shift at St. Clair's Rehabilitation Center. Exhausted, but eager to get home, her umbrella barely shielded her from the wind. But she didn't mind. She was used to tough days. Life had taught her that strength was forged through struggle, and she wore her quiet resilience like armor. As she turned the corner past the bus stop, she noticed a man in a wheelchair struggling with a grocery bag that had torn open. Apples had rolled into the street. Without thinking, Amelia ran toward him, kneeling beside the scattered fruit. "Let me help," she said kindly, already gathering the apples with one hand as she held her umbrella awkwardly with the other. The man looked up at her. His eyes were a deep green, gentle, observant, and kind. "Thank you," he said with a slight smile. "That bag gave up on me faster than I expected." Amelia smiled back. "Happens to the best of us." They shared a moment, one of those quiet connections that didn't need explanation. After helping him secure the groceries in a new bag, she asked, "Do you need help getting anywhere?" "I'm good now," he said. "My place is just down the block. I'm Owen, by the way." "Amelia," she replied. "Nice to meet you, Amelia. And thanks again." As she walked away, she looked back once. He was still watching her, a smile lingering on his lips. 2 weeks later, Amelia saw him again. This time, inside the rehabilitation center where she worked. She had just finished helping a stroke patient when she glanced at the schedule board and noticed a new name: Owen Matthews, physiotherapy evaluation. Her heart skipped. She walked into the session room where he sat, speaking with the assigned therapist. "I didn't know you were coming in here," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Owen looked surprised and genuinely happy. "Well, small world, huh?" He explained that he had recently been trying new methods for improving his upper body strength and managing pain. His spinal injury from a construction site fall had left him paralyzed from the waist down 5 years ago, but he never gave up on living fully. Over the weeks that followed, they saw each other more and more during therapy sessions, in the hallways, in the hospital cafe. Amelia wasn't supposed to get attached to patients, but Owen wasn't just a patient. His optimism, his sense of humor, the way he listened so intently it chipped away at the quiet walls she had built around her heart. One day, as they shared coffee in the break area, Owen asked, "So what's your story, Nurse Amelia?" She laughed. "It's not that interesting. Grew up in a small town. Lost my mom when I was 14. Spent most of my life taking care of others. I guess that's why I became a nurse." "That sounds like someone strong," he said. "Not boring." She looked at him closely. "And you're always smiling, even when your pain flares up." Owen hesitated for a moment, then shrugged. "Pain reminds me I'm still here. Besides, I've seen darker days. Being bitter doesn't help anything." From that day on, their bond deepened. They texted after hours, met for dinner once, then twice, then every weekend. Owen brought light into Amelia's world, and Amelia brought peace into Owen's. 6 months later, on a quiet park bench surrounded by red autumn leaves, Owen held Amelia's hand tightly. "I didn't think I'd find love again," he said. "I honestly thought I was broken, not just my body, but everything. And then you showed up in the rain like some miracle." Amelia's eyes shimmered. "You're not broken, Owen. You never were. I want to spend the rest of my life proving that to you," he said. "Will you marry me?" Tears rolled down her cheeks as she nodded. Unable to speak, he slipped the ring on her finger, and the world seemed to pause around them. The wedding preparations began almost immediately. Amelia wanted a simple ceremony, something intimate, meaningful. Owen agreed, but he had other plans too. Late one night, after Amelia had fallen asleep, Owen sat in his study with his old friend and former physical therapist. "Lucas, I want to stand on our wedding day," Owen said quietly. Lucas looked up sharply. "Owen, We've talked about this. I know it's hard. I know it's risky, but it's possible, right? Just for a few minutes, with braces, with help. I've been working out every day. I've gained strength. I'm ready to try. Lucas hesitated. It's your call, but this won't be easy. I know, Owen said, eyes shining with determination. But I want her to remember our wedding not just for what it is, but for what I became for her. For us. Over the following weeks, Owen began training in secret. Every morning before sunrise, he practiced with leg braces. He fell often, he bruised himself, he had muscle cramps. But he never quit. He told Amelia he was meeting with vendors or finalizing guest lists. She never questioned it. She trusted him completely. Owen's therapist was amazed. In just a month, he was able to stand for nearly a full minute without assistance. With practice, Owen believed he could hold steady for long enough to surprise Amelia at the altar. He pictured it again and again the moment the priest would ask everyone to rise. And he would, to Dot, as the wedding day approached. Amelia noticed Owen seemed more tired than usual. She asked if something was wrong. Just nerves, he said with a chuckle. Marrying the love of my life is a big deal. You're perfect, she whispered, kissing his cheek. He looked at her with deep affection. You make me feel like I'm more than what I've lost. You see me. The real me. I always have, she said the night before the wedding. Owen stared at his reflection in the mirror. The leg braces lay beside him, gleaming under the soft light. He touched them gently, then closed his eyes, imagining Amelia's face when she would see him stand for the first time. She gave me a life worth living, he whispered. Now I'm going to give her a moment she never forget. The day everything changed, the morning of the wedding dawned quietly. A soft fog hugged the trees outside Amelia's childhood home, and the early sun glimmered through the window like a gentle promise. She stood before the mirror, her hands trembling slightly as she fastened the final clasp of her pearl necklace. The white satin dress hugged her frame, elegant and simple just as she had always dreamed. Today was the day she would marry Owen Matthews as her maid of honor. Her cousin Myra entered the room carrying a bouquet of pale lilacs and cream roses. Amelia let out a nervous breath. You look like someone who just saw a ghost, Myra teased with a warm smile. Amelia laughed, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. I can't believe it's real. After everything I've been through, after everything Owen has faced. Today we start something new, together. You deserve this happiness, Myra said. And honestly, I've never seen two people fit together so perfectly. Amelia nodded slowly, but deep inside her chest, a swirl of emotions stirred: joy, hope, and a quiet fear she couldn't quite name. She sat on the edge of the bed and closed her eyes. Memories rushed through her mother's laughter before the illness took her, her father's silent grief, the long nights she studied through tears just to get her nursing license. Life had never been gentle, but somehow, Owen had arrived like a balm to her wounds. A knock on the door startled her. A delivery woman stood outside, holding a small envelope and a single white lily. For Amelia Grant, she said, handing her the items with a kind smile. Amelia opened the envelope. Inside, a handwritten note in Owen's neat script read, Today, I become yours, entirely, and today, I give you something I've never given anyone, all of me, even the parts I've hidden. I love you. See you at the altar. Owen. Amelia felt her eyes fill. She held the lily close and whispered, whatever it is, I'm ready. Meanwhile, across the city at the old chapel, tucked between the hills, Owen sat in a private room, lined with wood and ivy-covered stained glass windows. He stared at the braces lying in front of him. His heart pounded. Lucas, his therapist, tightened the straps gently around Owen's thighs and knees. You sure you're ready? He asked. I'm terrified, Owen admitted, but I've never been more certain about anything. Lucas nodded, crouching beside him. You've made it this far. You've pushed through the impossible, but listen. If it becomes too much, if your body gives out, don't force it. Amelia wouldn't want you to hurt yourself. I know, Owen said quietly, but this isn't just about walking. This is about showing her that I will always rise for her even when it hurts. Lucas stood, his eyes shining. You've already done more than anyone expected. You're a damn miracle, Owen. Owen gripped the arms of the chair, took a deep breath, and began the slow process of standing with the help of the braces and a walker. Each step, though shaky, felt like a step toward destiny. His legs trembled, but his resolve did not. He practiced standing again and again while the wedding team waited, unaware of the miracle being rehearsed in the adjacent room. By afternoon, the chapel was filled with soft music and the scent of wildflowers. The guests' close friends, family, fellow nurses, and a few of Owen's old co-workers took their seats quietly, whispering about the love story that had touched so many. Amelia waited in a quiet room at the back, her veil draped delicately over her hair. Her heart beat faster with every passing second. She hadn't seen Owen all day, but she felt his presence in every moment. She had no idea what he was planning, only that something stirred in the air. Her father approached and offered his arm. He hadn't always been supportive of her relationship with Owen. In fact, he had once said, "He's a good man, Amelia. But are you ready for a lifetime of caregiving?" That comment had wounded her deeply, but now her father looked at her with softened eyes. "You proved me wrong," he said quietly. "You chose love over comfort, and I'm proud of you." Amelia hugged him tightly. "Love doesn't look like comfort. It looks like commitment. And Owen's the strongest man I've ever known." As the music shifted and the doors opened, Amelia took a deep breath and stepped into the chapel. Owen waited at the altar, seated in his wheelchair, his hands resting on his lap. His heart thundered as he watched Amelia glide down the aisle, glowing like a vision in white. She walked slowly, her eyes locked on his, unaware of what was about to happen. When she reached him, the priest smiled warmly and began the ceremony. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of two souls who have shown us all the true meaning of devotion and strength." Owen's mind buzzed. The time was near. He could feel every muscle in his body tightening in anticipation. The priest continued, "Marriage is a sacred bond, and before we begin, I invite everyone to rise." The chapel rustled as guests stood from the pews, and then, to the shock of every single person in the room including Amelia, Owen stood up. Gasps echoed. Amelia's eyes widened. Her hand flew to her mouth as Owen, with trembling strength, locked eyes with her. "Owen," she whispered. He gave her a soft, teary smile. "I wanted to stand beside you today," he said. "I wanted you to see what your love helped me become." Tears spilled from Amelia's eyes as she shook her head in disbelief, overwhelmed by emotion. "You're standing because of you," he said. "Because you believed in the parts of me even I had given up on." The chapel was silent except for quiet sobs. Some guests held their chests. Others simply stared, stunned at the man who had overcome so much just to give his bride one unforgettable moment. He reached for her hand, and she took it, still crying. "I don't need you to be perfect," she whispered. "I just needed you. But this is the most beautiful thing anyone's ever done for me." The priest waited a moment, then continued the ceremony with his voice shaking. The vows were exchanged with trembling hands, and when the priest said, "You may now kiss the bride," Owen leaned forward slightly and they kissed, a kiss full of every step he had taken to get there, every wound healed by love, every breath filled with promise. The guests erupted in applause. The chapel echoed with joy, love, and awe. Some had come expecting to witness a wedding of quiet devotion. Instead, they had witnessed a miracle of willpower, love, and determination. Amelia helped Owen carefully lower himself back into the chair. He looked at her, exhausted but glowing. "Was it worth it?" he asked softly. She nodded. tears still glistening. More than you'll ever know. That evening, at the reception, under twinkling lights, Amelia gave a small speech. She stood at the head table, holding Owen's hand. Most people look at Owen and see a wheelchair. But I see the man who stood when it mattered most. I see someone who has taught me more about love, courage, and humanity than anyone else ever could. Today, he stood for me. But the truth is he's been standing for me since the day we met. The room fell silent again, as if holding its collective breath in reverence. The applause that followed shook the rafters. Love is what carries us. Weeks after the wedding passed like a dream for Amelia and Owen. Their small apartment in the city became a sanctuary filled with soft laughter, late-night conversations, and quiet moments that felt larger than life. The wedding had left an unforgettable mark on everyone who attended, but for Amelia, it etched something deeper into her soul, a promise that no matter what life threw their way, they would face it together. Every morning, Amelia would wake to find Owen already awake, journaling or listening to music as the sunlight poured through their bedroom window. Some mornings, he would surprise her with coffee and a handwritten note left by the sink. Other days, it was she who returned the gesture with a warm breakfast or a fresh bouquet from the market. Love lived in the small things, the way she tucked the blanket around his legs, the way he asked her how her day really went, not just out of habit, but with sincere curiosity. But even in their honeymoon phase, reality crept in like a quiet shadow. Owen's body was tired. The strain he had put on himself in preparing to stand at the wedding hadn't faded as quickly as he hoped. The bruises on his thighs lingered, the soreness in his back turned into stiffness. And by the third week, he started having trouble transferring from the wheelchair to the bed. Without Amelia's help, he tried to hide it at first, laughing off the winces, brushing away her concerned glances. But Amelia knew. She always knew. "You're pushing yourself too hard," she said one night as she gently massaged his lower back. "You gave me the greatest gift already. You don't need to prove anything else." Owen looked at her, pain flickering in his eyes, not just physical pain, but the deeper ache of vulnerability. "I don't want to go backward, Em. I don't want to be less than I was that day." Amelia knelt in front of him, her hands resting on his knees. "You stood for me once, but I will stand for you every day if I have to. That's how love works." He pulled her close and held her tightly, his forehead resting against hers. I want to be your equal." "You already are," she whispered. A month later, Owen's health took an unexpected turn. It started with sharp, stabbing pains in his left shoulder. At first, they thought it was muscle strain from overexertion, but when the pain spread down his arm and into his chest, Amelia insisted they visit a specialist. After a series of tests and scans, the diagnosis came: complex regional pain syndrome, CRPSE, a rare and chronic condition, possibly triggered by the nerve trauma of his injury and recent exertion. The same condition he thought he had escaped years ago had found a new way back into his life. The pain was relentless. It came in waves, unpredictable and cruel. Some days, he could barely move. Other days, he pushed through the agony, trying to be the man Amelia fell in love with. But even his incredible spirit began to crack under the weight of the condition. Amelia watched helplessly as the man who once stood for her began to retreat inside himself. He stopped journaling. The music grew quiet. His smiles came less often. And sometimes, she would wake in the middle of the night to find him silently weeping, his back turned to her. One morning, she found him in the living room with his wheelchair parked beside the window, his eyes vacant as he stared at the rain. "You didn't sleep again," she said softly. He didn't look at her. "I'm tired of being in pain. I'm tired of being a burden." She knelt beside him, her voice trembling. "You are not a burden. You're my husband, my partner. I took vows, Owen. I meant them." He finally turned to face her. "You didn't sign up for this. You didn't sign up for a lifetime of caregiving." "No," she said firmly. "I signed up for you. in sickness and in health, and I'd choose you again, even if I knew this pain would come. Owen looked at her, broken and raw. But I feel like I'm losing myself. She took his hand and placed it on her chest. Then let me carry the pieces for a while. Until you find yourself again. Determined not to let the illness steal their light, Amelia began researching everything she could about CAPS. She joined support groups, read medical journals, and even reached out to specialists across the country. Together, they tried new therapies, from nerve blocks to guided imagery to acupuncture. Some helped, others didn't, but they never stopped trying to bring some joy back into Owen's days. Amelia started a daily ritual. Each evening at 7 p.m., no matter how tired she was or how much pain he felt, they would share one beautiful thing from their day. Sometimes it was something small. I saw a kid drop his ice cream, and his dad brought him 2 scoops to make up for it, Owen said one night, his lips curling into a rare smile. Other times, it was something deeper. I watched you sleep this morning, Amelia whispered once, and I realized I love you even more when you're at your most vulnerable. These moments didn't erase the pain, but they softened the edges. 3 months after the diagnosis, Amelia had an idea. I know we said no big trips this year, she said, wheeling in a brochure with bright images of forest cabins and lakes. But what if we escaped for a few days? Just us, somewhere quiet, no hospitals, no alarms. Just us. Owen hesitated. What if something happens? What if the pain gets worse, and we're far from the city? Then we deal with it together, she said. Eventually, he agreed. They rented a small cabin by Crystal Lake, nestled deep in the Oregon woods. The air was fresh and crisp, the trees towering like silent guardians over the still water. For the first time in months, Owen felt at peace. They spent the days reading by the fire, playing card games, and sitting in silence, listening to the wind rustle through the pines. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, Owen asked Amelia to wheel him to the lake's edge. There, with the water reflecting the golden sky, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small box. Amelia's breath caught. What's this? He opened it to reveal a simple gold band, etched with their wedding date and the words still standing. I know we're already married, he said, his voice cracking. But I want to renew my promise, not just to love you but to keep trying. For us. Amelia took the ring, tears falling freely now. I accept. Again and again. She slid the ring onto his finger and kissed him under the fading light, the forest holding them in its quiet embrace. Back in the city, life didn't get easier. There were setbacks, hospital visits, days when Owen could barely speak through the pain, nights when Amelia wept quietly in the shower, away from his eyes. But there was also strength unseen, unspoken, unbreakable. They were no longer the couple, but had walked down the aisle under fairy lights and flower petals. They were more than that now. They were warriors of the heart,